to Sourdough Needs podcast. My name is Olga and I'm coming to you from Toronto, Ontario. Today is January 6th, I believe. This is a podcast about knitting, crafting, and some sourdough stuff. Bread baking and whatever else you can make with sourdough, really. And yeah, it's been a while. I kind of did 3 episodes and then sort of disappeared. Well, the main reason for that was that, world events. So suddenly my whole family was at home all the time. I have 2 little kids, so my daughter who's 2.5 and she's always home with me. And then my son who used to be in daycare was suddenly home full time. And he's 4.5, so it's been busy. And my husband wasn't still working from home. So yeah, it took a while to get used to it and get organized, and I just didn't really have the time for this. And then even though he went to daycare back in July, there was still some stuff happening, and I just kind of lost interest in this, I guess. But then now with the vlogmases and I don't know, the weather maybe, I started watching more podcasts, and I kind of was inspired to share again. And also, I guess with the vlogmases, there was a lot of sort of like, I guess kind of like an Advent countdown for Christmas. And I don't celebrate Christmas, even though I have a Christmas tree, but it's not really for Christmas. I'll explain in a sec. So even though I like that sort of the countdown and the atmosphere and the feeling, I don't really like Christmas is not really the holiday for me. So I just wanted to kind of to share our holiday, which is Novi God. So you might have seen some excerpts in the beginning of sort of how we celebrate. So we also have a tree. So it's basically the New Year's. It's Novi God is in Russian. I have Russian background. Well, Soviet. Let's just say Soviet. I was born in a country that doesn't exist, the Soviet Union. So we put also a tree, but it's for New Year's and decorated and everything. It's kind of, I guess, like Christmas, but on New Year's, because it's like about family gathering and like having a big meal. There's sort of certain foods we always prepare. So I put this little excerpt of our table. It wasn't super fancy, like, because usually we would have our friends over, our family, so we make it much nicer. But this year it was just the 4 of us, because we're not allowed to celebrate with anybody outside of our household. So I still made the effort to make salads, and me and my friend, we kind of exchanged some so that we have all of them. And but we don't have to make all of them. And then I made this cake that I unfortunately didn't take any pictures or videos of, but I'm really happy I made it. It's called Napoleon. So it's like a layered, what's it called? Puff pastry cake with vanilla cream. It's really delicious, but it's a lot of work. It took me like 3 hours, but it was totally worth it. I always wanted to make it, and I always was too busy at this time period to make it. And then when they announced that we won't be able to celebrate with family or friends and just the household, I just was like, okay, I'm gonna make the cake to make myself still make it feel festive, and just to make myself feel better about the whole thing. So I made it, and it was amazing, and I'll definitely be making it again for birthdays and things like that. Probably more like whoever's birthday in the winter and for New Year's, because I don't know, I think in the hot weather it will be really difficult. You have to like bake 12 of those puff pastry. You kind of roll it into, you make 12 balls, and then you roll each ball out really, really thin and bake it. And that takes quite a while, and I think in the summer it'll be really hard with the heat. But it's perfect for winter when you want to warm up the apartment. So yes, I made that, and we gave the kids presents on New Year's Day and also before. We even managed, we were lucky enough, we were still able to go to an event on a farm, so it was outdoors. to celebrate. So basically there was Ded Moroz, which is I guess it's like Santa Claus, like Father Christmas, but I guess the translation would be Grandpa Frost. And then there's also Snegurочка, which is I guess kind of like the elves. She's like his helper. She's his granddaughter. And it was just nice. They had a big tree decorated and a fire, and everybody were dancing around and singing songs, and I think it was more fun for the adults than for the kids. But yeah, we really enjoyed it, and all of that made it feel still like a celebration, even though we couldn't celebrate the way we would usually. So I guess we can just jump right into it. I wanted to show you some knitting, some cross stitch, and that's it, I guess. Yeah, some knitting and some cross stitch. Hopefully by the end of it I'll get used to it. Okay, so the knitting I'm making. So my friend asked me, she's always really cold outside, and she asked for a sweater. Well, I suggested and she agreed, but whatever, she had. I'm making her a sweater. It's a petite knit, no frills cardigan, which is also the one I'm wearing, which I'll tell you a little bit about later. I really like that pattern. It's a really nice pattern, and the end result is always really, really good. For this one, I'm using this yarn. So it's Highland DK. It's I think it's called Cloudborn is the company. It doesn't say here. It's made with Peru. Oh yeah, Cloudborn Fibers. I got it on Webs. They had really, really good price for these ones. So it's a DK one, and then I also have these two. So I'm gonna stripe them because it's gonna be big. I'll explain in a second why. So this one, this one's the same. It's a Merino superwash sock twist, and that one it's like a sock yarn, and it has 80% superwash and 20% polyamide. But it's yeah, it's very soft and very, I feel, drapey. Which is the same with this. Like this is 100% Highland wool, but it's very soft and very drapey, I would say, as well for 100% wool. So I'm really excited. So the reason this is gonna eat up a lot of yarn, so these I'm gonna hold double, so this one already balled up, is because I'm making it on smaller needles because she wanted tighter sweater, sort of tighter knit. So you're supposed to knit it on 4 millimeters. And I'm knitting it on 3.25. So based on my calculations, which I hope are correct, I'm knitting the 2XL size so that it will end up being a medium size. Fingers crossed. And then what else did I want to tell you about that? Oh yeah, for the first time I tried tubular cast on, and it's amazing. Like it does make this really, really professional look. I don't mind it so much for cast-ons, but I think for cast-offs, I don't know, cast-offs for me are always kind of, they don't look that great, so I really want to see how you do the tubular cast-off, and if the end product is like this, like it's just like, you can't really see where it began, right? Then it's totally worth it. It does take more time, but it's just a little bit extra knitting, really. It's not really that complicated. I thought it must be really complicated, but it's not. It's very simple once you try it. Yeah, so I highly recommend you try. I heard about it for a really long time from other knitters, and I always thought like, oh, that's too much work probably, without even looking into it. But then, yeah, once I tried it, I definitely recommend it. And yeah, so my plan is to, as soon as like I have this first ball, the DK is 50-gram balls, so as soon as this ball is over, I'll start striping with this yarn, basically up until I'm done with all my DK weight, and then the rest I'll stripe this with this. So my plan is to have kind of pretty thin stripes of this, maybe like 2 rows stripes, maybe 3, I have to see. And then for now, this is the main color, and then at the end, this will be the main color. So this will be really just the bottom of the sleeves and the body. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't know. Hopefully it'll be enough. I think it might be just enough. And if I still need some other, I have another skein of this yarn in like kind of like an oatmeal color, so I could always throw it in at the bottom. It should be okay. The only thing with this sweater is that she wanted a really, really warm sweater, and I don't think it'll be really, really warm. I think it'll be warm enough. And after I already ordered the yarn, I was listening to people talk about warm yarns and yarns in general, and somebody was talking about how the Lopi yarn is really, really warm. And so maybe I'll end up making another sweater, maybe for next year. So her birthday is the end of January. I doubt that it'll be ready by then, but maybe it'll be just about. We'll see. So that's the knitting with this. And then for my FOs, I wanted to share with you my Advent mittens. So I already put a little insert at the beginning of them. I'll put them again. I started them last year, and I think throughout the year I managed maybe 3 or 4. And then in December, I think I made 3 of them. So I had total of 7. And we usually put the tree like the weekend before Christmas, I guess it turns out. It's usually when my husband goes on vacation. So it works out about that. So usually it turns out to be 2 weeks before New Year's, more or less. So my goal eventually is to have about 15. Originally, I wanted to have 31 mittens so that we can put one every day leading up to New Year's. But then I realized like it will be just too much because we don't decorate before that early. So it'll be just like kind of weird for me. So I'd rather have like all the decorations and the tree up more or less at the same time, or at least that the tree is up and then all the other decorations come up slowly after. So that's why I figured 15 mittens should be enough, and even if we start the mittens a few days before the tree is up, that's okay. It's not like it's 2 weeks before the tree is up. So for now I had 7. We started about a week before. It was nice. I think I was more excited than the kids because the idea was that they will put it every year, but we hung it up kind of high so they would hand them to me and I would put them. So this is a famous pattern by Kathy Lewinsky, I want to say. It's a free pattern. There's a paid version, there's a free version. I use the free version. I'm looking at them while I'm talking to you. They're right in front of me. It's really nice. I've never really done a lot of color work before. I used, it's Canadian yarn. I forgot the name. I can't believe I forgot the name. I'll put the name. I'll put everything in the description below, like all the project things I used and everything like that. I forgot the yarn. Anyway, I'll put it down. I'll put the name on the screen while I'm talking so that there's still credit on time. It's yarn that I used the white, the original, and then I also dyed some skeins with black beans, which is like the bluish color, with madder, which is like the orangey red, and then with onion skins, which is like the fall kind of orange. And then I used like, there's some green in some of the mittens, so I used some other green 2-ply sport weight yarn, which is the same. This is about sport weight. So yeah, it's really good yarn for color work. It's very toothy. Sometimes I would even say too toothy, like it would get stuck at places you don't want it to stuck. It's not too springy, so it's like a 1-ply. So yeah, you have to like be a little bit careful with it, I guess. But it was a great way to kind of try color work. I don't know if I think you can get a lot from just starting a sweater because you're just kind of knitting in the round, assuming you are, but you're just knitting in the round on a big circumference, so you get like a lot of time to really hone your skills with it. But this was, it's a little different because it's a very small circumference, so at first I really tried to keep the floats even and everything, and it was really hard. And then I just realized that I could just put like 2 needles, so like one for the front and one for the back, and then use another needle to knit off of those needles. And then sometimes if there was too long of a float from the other side, I would just kind of like pull it through, so I wouldn't like catch it or anything. It was basically, you couldn't wear those mittens, most of them. But then that made the final look pretty good. I hope I'm not shaking this too much. I probably shouldn't. I hope it's not too shaky. And then with one mitten where there was really lots of floats, because it's supposed to be like snowflakes and they're like kind of all over the place, very random, I did use this technique where you kind of like, it's kind of like you double knit almost. Scandier did a good tutorial for that, so I'll link it down below. I've heard other people talk about it, and I always wanted to try it. So it kind of creates this look at the back as if it's machine knitted, really. It was nice, but it made the mitten kind of very fat, so it looks bigger than the other ones. But it is really warm, so I guess if you would make it for a mitten you want to wear, it's pretty good. But then I think most mittens that are wearable, they make the design so that you don't have too many floats anyway, so or too long of a float. Yeah, so yeah, I'm really excited to make more of them. I really like all the little patterns that the designer made there. It makes it festive. It looks nice. I like that it's mostly naturally dyed colors, and they kind of all blend well together, and they're not too like bright. Like they're not like, I think the original pattern it's like red, and the original design in the pattern it's red and white and light gray, and I can't remember what's the other colors, but it's very like Christmassy, like bright Christmas. And since for us it's not really for Christmas, it kind of works well that it's more muted kind of colors. So that's that. And then I guess before I talk about cross stitch, I'll talk a bit about this sweater that I made maybe 6 months ago, maybe less. So what happened, this is also petite knit pattern. I knitted on a fingering yarn without holding like an extra a string of yarn. So I think I did the medium size on maybe 3.5 millimeters, so that I'll get sort of like the small. And it turned out really nice. Kind of like bigger a little bit than I think it was somewhere between small and medium at the end. But the big mistake I made was that I put in the washing machine, and then it kind of became felted and much shorter. So I'll just stand up. It used to come like up to here, and now it's like kind of cropped. And I don't wear a lot of cropped clothes, well, tops I guess. But this one is kind of like on the border, so I still wear it. I like it. The one good thing about it felting is that now it's much warmer than it used to be. And the yarn I use, I don't remember the name of the yarn, but the thing with this yarn, it's kind of like, it's not really spun. So it's wool, and I think there's like a string going through it. So kind of like with mohair, I guess. So it's very lightly spun, single ply over like a strand of yarn, which I'm not sure, maybe it's acrylic. And then you have those little nips that I think they're cotton. So yeah, that's kind of like how it's structured. So even though it's not 100% wool, it felted pretty well, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, it is warm now, so that's good, much warmer. And yeah, and I knew when I put, the saddest part is that I knew when I put it in the wash, I was like, I probably shouldn't put it in the washing machine. And then I just kind of got distracted, and I just forgot about it. And I even thought like, well, it's not 100% wool, maybe it'll be fine. And then this happened. So I'm grateful that I can still wear it, so it's not a total loss. But yeah, definitely should be more careful for the future. So that's about the knitting. And then the cross stitch. So this is something I've been working on for maybe 5 years, I think, 4 or 5 years. So as you can see, my Christmas tree or New Year's tree, I like to decorate it with handmade, knitted or cross stitch. So I do have a few of the like balls. I don't know if you can see like here, but then the rest of it I try to make it handmade, so it gets more decorations each year. So each year I try to add a few, some knitted and some cross stitch. And a few years back I got this pattern from Dimensions. I think it's kind of considered like maybe what do you call it? Not antique, vintagey pattern. So it's really cute. It has all these like little snowman family of 3 Sometimes there's one, sometimes there's two, sometimes three, and they're all like doing wintry stuff together, holiday themed. It's really cute. So I already made in the insert, the short video I put at the beginning. You can see I've made already, I think, 4 of them. So I just have 2 left, and I really want to finish them before next year so that I can already do something with them. To be honest, I don't know if I'll put them on the tree. I might just have them as a separate decoration because they're weird shape, but I might end up putting on tree. I don't know. Anyway, I want to finish them so they're ready for next holiday season. So right now I'm making, which one I'm making? Oh, I'm making this one where they're decorating the little tree. See that? So this is what I have so far. And the thing with these, that even though they're so small, there's like so much work involved in making them. Because there's like lots of different kinds of stitches, lots of different colors of thread, lots of like combinations where you have like one color is like basically made up of 2 threads of different colors. Sometimes the same color is half a cross stitch, sometimes a full cross stitch, lots of back stitch, French knots, everything, lots of things. So on one hand it's nice because it keeps it interesting and you keep changing and doing, like, you don't get stuck with those huge areas where you do like the same thing with the same color, but also there's lots of stuff you keep changing all the time, so you can have to be really focused. You can't just watch a movie with it or something like that. But I really do enjoy it, and it's usually around New Year's time or like right after New Year's that I suddenly, I guess because I decorate, we decorate the apartment a little bit for New Year's. And that's when I realized, like, oh my gosh, we still have nothing on the walls and we've been here for 7 years, because my plan is to knit, cross stitch, or like make basically handmade, but I guess mostly cross stitch, all kinds of pictures and stuff to put on the walls. And that obviously doesn't happen because like we have 2 kids and they're little still even. Now I feel like I start having more time for that. But usually at the beginning of the year is when I'm like, yes, I'm gonna like do so much and I'm gonna fill out the house this year, and it usually doesn't happen. But this year I'm feeling pretty hopeful because I did, I'll put a little insert here. I did put up 2 pictures that I've done a while ago. One of Sydney. I'll put the name of the company that made the design. We put it in my son's bedroom. He really liked it, so I made it a while ago when we were actually in Sydney, Australia. And then the other one is one that I made that's like, I guess for anniversary or whatever, to commemorate. I don't know if that's the right word here, but basically it has our name and like love in the middle. It's kind of kitschy. I don't know, when I made it I really liked it. Now I don't like it as much, but I do like the colors I made it in. And I mean, I feel ashamed throwing it because it does look good, and I do like that it represents our wedding anniversary, so I put it up anyway. But it's one that I probably wouldn't do now again, but yeah. But I'm really happy that I finally put them up because I made them years ago, and the fact that like I put them up and, well, I basically like I finished them up and everything and I put them up on the wall it's kind of like promising for me, because like, okay, I really finished those, I can really keep going on the other ones. And I have a bunch of stuff started as well, and then obviously there's a lot of stuff I want to start, but I guess we'll see how that goes. Let me get some tea. I'm pretty boring with my drinks. I like tea and coffee. I like coffee more, and I like black tea, and usually I just drink the same stuff over and over, because once I like something, I used to try a lot of the David's teas, and to be honest, I realized I only really liked the white green tea, the oolong, and the black teas. And for black teas, I really, like, it's such a hit or miss with the flavored ones that I usually prefer to just stick with just like English breakfast, or, one of those, the ones how they're gonna taste. And I'd rather, like, instead of having some tea with lots of flavor, I'd rather have plain black tea, and then like a cake or a cookie or chocolate for the flavor part. And then I guess the last thing to talk about is the sourdough. Right now I'm really trying to get the perfect 100% whole wheat sourdough. It's a recipe I found on Matthew James Duffy's website. He's from Toronto, and he's really amazing. He's like a professional. I think he calls himself a sourdough professor, or maybe other people call him. I don't know. I think it's on his blog. So he started. Maybe he had it before, but it seems pretty new. There's not too many posts there. A blog, and he's really experienced. He's been baking for 15 years, and his background is a chef. And he's actually teaching sourdough baking in I think Seneca College. So I guess it's for like bakers. Like I guess maybe they have a bakery program. I know they have like a chef program. So I don't know if it's part of it, or they have a pastry chef, I think. So I don't know if that's part of it, or if this is something separate or whatever. But anyway, he's a teacher of it, so he definitely knows. He knows his stuff. And I like his approach. He explains things very kind of like simple, to the point. And recently he uploaded this 100% whole wheat sourdough, which is really hard to find. Like usually when you find whole wheat sourdough recipe, it's like, I don't know, 20% whole wheat. Like at best it would be 50%, because I guess it's really hard to get the more whole wheat you put, the harder it is to get the bread to get that oven spring and to like have, like basically it needs more gluten. How do you call it? It has to develop its gluten better to be stronger, the dough, before so that it can really rise well. So his trick, I guess, I'll link the recipe down below, is to use a stiff starter and lots of kneading. So he uses a mixer. I don't have a mixer, so a dough mixer, and so I just kind of like do a lot of slap and folds, and sometimes I succeed. Sometimes I think I overproof it, maybe. I don't know. Sometimes it looks a little bit better than others, but I still didn't get it perfect the way I would wish it was. So, and I still have some options of stuff I can experiment changing. So that's what I'm working on right now. The taste is amazing. It turns out really tasty without being like heavy. So yeah, it's a good recipe. I guess I just need to figure out how to do it well without the mixer and in my sort of like temperature and with my sourdough starter and everything. But if you're up for the challenge for some healthy bread, I recommend trying this one. Yeah, I think that's all for now. I'm hoping to make this a regular thing. I know it sounds like another one of those New Year's resolutions, but I don't really believe in New Year's resolutions. I just feel like every time after like the kind of the hastiness and craziness and busyness of like December, you kind of want to just go back to like a routine and maybe like start new things. But I don't think it necessarily relates, at least for me, it doesn't necessarily relate to like being a new year, but just like I feel the same way in September or like April. You know, it's like when there's some kind of a change, maybe in season, or just sort of like this feeling of going back to a routine, and then like sometimes I want to add new things to my routine or modify or whatever. So I guess when it's in January, it may seem like a New Year resolution, but I don't feel like that's what it is. It's just, I guess, an opportunity to kind of like restructure how things are. So yeah, I definitely hope to make it something more regular, because I really enjoy sharing, like just in general, like all these little like videos at the beginning of our life and what I'm making. I really like that. I'd like to have that sort of as a memento. And I think it's also really motivating to keep crafting and doing different things. I do tend to like want to do all the things, and then slowly throughout the year I end up with just knitting and not even that regularly, maybe even, because it's the easiest one to fall back on. Whereas like cross stitch, you have to like get more stuff, or like sewing, which I kind of been trying to do a little bit as well. It just takes more space and you really have to like get things out, whereas knitting is like always lying there on the couch. But I definitely want to, yeah, kind of like do more of the different things, especially that now the kids are a little bit older, so I do have that opportunity. yeah, and I just really enjoy sharing it because there's nobody else really in my life who likes all these things as much as I do in the same way. And every time I watch other people podcast, I kind of want to jump in. So yeah, so hopefully you'll join the ride, join me on this ride, and I'll see you soon. Bye.